I flew Asiana Airlines business class for 16 hours from Seattle through Korea on to Hong Kong, and all I had to pay was Chase credit card points and $64 of taxes and fees out of my pocket for each ticket. The total price for this business class route for two people was over $6,000, but I only had to transfer over 125,000 Chase Ultimate Rewards points over to Air Canada Aeroplan. Let's talk about why I chose Air Canada's website to book this Korean Airlines flight, and also let's talk about why I chose Chase credit card points to make this booking happen. And then you will see me on the website booking the flight, and we'll talk about the cents per point I got for this redemption. So let's start off by talking about why Air Canada. Well, I wanted to take a flight from the United States over to Asia, and I wanted to be somewhere around like Southeast Asia, or at least like close to that, because I know I wanted to go on a trip to see Hong Kong, to see Taiwan. Of course, we would get to Korea at some point and maybe even Japan along the way, but I knew the flights between all of these countries would be pretty inexpensive, and so I just wanted to go as far as possible beyond Korea. The way I went about looking for flights is I went to seats.aero to see different routes from the United States over to Asia, and I did happen to come across a flight that was going from Seattle to Korea, and I was like, this is fantastic. And I saw that it was Asiana Airlines, and I know that Asiana is not a credit card transfer partner with anyone like Chase, American Express, Capital One, those kinds of banks. And so I was like, okay, what are my options here? And I did find out that you are able to book Asiana Airlines business class or economy through Star Alliance partners like United or Air Canada. I'm sure there's also other ways to book Asiana with credit card points, but we will focus on United and Air Canada for this video. I went over to United's website because it's just a far better search tool to use when it comes to finding business class flights on Asiana. So I went on the United website and I typed in the exact details that I found from seats.aero when I found that flight from Seattle to Korea. And on United, that flight was showing up for two people. I might have to go into a whole separate video on like how to actually find this award availability, because it's a little bit complicated if you don't know exactly how to do it, but I did see that flight on the United website, and I was pretty excited to see that it was going to cost 100,000 United miles per person and just a few dollars in taxes and fees for business class. But of course, I booked this flight with Air Canada, and it's because Air Canada is just the far superior transfer partner, because they partner with a ton of banks, American Express, Chase, Capital One, Bilt. They don't currently have partnerships with Citi or Wells Fargo as of filming this video, but hopefully Wells Fargo and maybe even Citi will add them in the future. So Air Canada partners with more banks than United, but Air Canada also has cheaper flights on their website than United does for Asiana business class. I was able to find the only two remaining award seats on a flight from not just Seattle to Korea, but also from Korea to Hong Kong for 75,000 Air Canada miles, plus just around like $60 in taxes and fees. This was so exciting for me to find because it was going to cost the same 75,000 Air Canada miles to fly from Seattle to Korea as it would to fly from Seattle to Korea and then down to Hong Kong. So this was basically like getting a free flight to Hong Kong, and it was going to be in business class. Okay, so now that I knew that I was going to be flying Asiana Airlines and I was going to be purchasing my flight on Air Canada, why did I decide to go with Chase credit card points? Well, at the time of this booking, there was a 20% transfer bonus from Chase over to Air Canada, and so that made Chase points the obvious choice over American Express or Capital One. And while we're talking about that 20% transfer bonus, I actually made two business class redemptions while this bonus was still going on, but we'll just talk about the Asiana flight in this video. Very briefly here, I want to talk about how to earn Chase points and transfer them out in case you aren't aware. How I love earning a ton of Chase points as fast as possible is by signing up for new Chase credit cards and meeting the minimum spend to hit that welcome bonus. So with the Chase Sapphire Preferred, for example, if you are able to spend $4,000 in the first 3 months after getting approved for this card, you will earn 60,000 Chase Ultimate Rewards points that you can use for any bookings that you want, economy bookings, business class flights, or even hotel stays. And what I have had fun doing recently is by signing up for business credit cards that earn Chase Ultimate Rewards points, like the Chase Inc. Business Cash and the Inc. Unlimited. These ones earn a ton of Chase points from the welcome bonuses. You will have to have self-employment income of some kind, or at least plans to earn self-employment income to get approved for business credit cards. But any way that you can earn Chase Ultimate Rewards points, that will help you earn points that you can transfer out to partners. And you transfer out to partners by either holding the Chase Sapphire Preferred, the Sapphire Reserve, or the Chase Inc. Preferred. So any of those 3 cards that you have, you can now unlock Chase transfer partners like Air Canada that you can use to book business class flights on Asiana Airlines. If you're interested in signing up for any Chase cards or any other cards for that matter, I do have links in the description. That helps out the channel in a big way if you decide to apply for a card using my link. Now on to booking this flight. I had to get 150,000 Air Canada miles in my account, so we started over with the Chase website. I clicked on combine points because this was the first process I had to go through, and we're actually going through my wife's account this time, and you can see that I don't have enough points in my Chase Sapphire Preferred to actually transfer over to Air Canada, so we're going to combine points from other Chase credit cards to get to 125,000 points. My wife had plenty of Chase points in her account from hitting welcome bonuses by signing up for new cards, and also for referring me to Chase Inc. business cards and also the Chase Sapphire Preferred last year. We transferred over points from her Inc. Unlimited to the Sapphire Preferred up to 125,000 points, and then we were ready to transfer them over to Air Canada. You can see that 20% transfer bonus on the Chase website, and something that I always do right before I transfer over the points, I head back over to the airline's website just to triple check that that flight is still there, because once you transfer over your credit card points over to airlines, you cannot transfer them back. And so I refreshed the Air Canada website, saw that there were still 2 seats available, and I said, okay, now is the time to transfer over the 125,000 Chase points, and that will turn into 150,000 Air Canada miles. The transfer was so easy. Once I clicked submit, I got 2 separate emails, one saying that the transfer was in progress, and then about like 2 seconds later, I got an email saying that the transfer was complete. I had to refresh the page to see 150,000 Air Canada miles in the account, and then I clicked on 75,000 points for that business class flight, which is actually really interesting when you look at the economy price for this flight. It was at 50,000 points for one person, and I'm like, that's a way better deal to spend the extra 25,000 points and get business class for not just this first 12-hour flight, but also for the second 4-hour flight. There's also an option to spend 90,000 points, and the only benefit there that I can see is that you're gonna get a refundable option with your ticket, which is not something I am open to doing because I'd have to spend 15,000 extra points to make that booking. And there's no point in doing that because a cancellation fee for Air Canada for a business class flight is going to be $150 Canadian, which is a little bit more than $100 USD. And so I don't want to spend an extra 15,000 points to potentially save $100 down the line. But I knew that we were most likely not going to cancel this flight anyway, so just booked the 75K flight. There's those taxes and fees if you want to see them. Nothing too crazy there. I actually think it's pretty good. Only $87 Canadian for each person. That turns out to be $64 USD per person, which is so nice because my last business class flight redemption, I had to pay almost $300 per person in taxes and fees, and so I was way more excited about this redemption than my previous one on Air France. Next up was entering all of our personal details like our frequent flyer number, even though we weren't going to be earning miles for this flight, and then also putting in our TSA pre-check and global entry numbers, and then we got to select our seats. We chose 2 seats in the middle of the plane to be right next to each other instead of going with the window seats. Hey, the window seats, I'm sure they're nice, but when you're traveling with 2 people, it's just easier to sit together. I also selected our seats for the second flight, and we decided to get the window this time, but the flight was really late at night, so there wasn't really going to be any cool views. We're just trying to basically sleep the whole time. But this time, instead of getting a lie flat seat like on the first 12-hour flight, we were in an angled lie flat seat. So definitely not as good as the full lie flat, but it was still okay. Once I put in my payment details to just pay the taxes and fees of about $128, we submitted that, and then we had our flights. And now let's check out the cents per point calculation for this redemption. This calculation is just to determine if we're getting good value for our Chase points. If you were to cash out your Chase points directly into your bank account, you would get 1 cent per point. And if you were to take the Chase Sapphire Preferred like I have, and you can use your points through the Chase Travel Portal to pay for any flight or hotel that you want, you would be getting 1.25 cents per point. And if you want to use your points for travel partners, it's best to at least get 2 cents per point so that you know you're getting good value for your points and you're not wasting them on something that maybe you should have paid cash for. So over 2 cents per point is the goal here, and hopefully we could get more than that. So if we go over to Google Flights and we look at what we see from business class options from Seattle to Seoul, South Korea over to Hong Kong, this exact flight on Asiana Business Class is going to cost over $6,000. And you can see that there is that lie flat option for the first flight and then the angled lie flat for the second flight. That's how I was able to know what seat I was going to be getting before I even booked this flight. On Google Flights, it did say that it was going to cost $6,466, but if you actually go to the Asiana website, I want to be completely fair here and say the actual price of it, it was going to be a little bit cheaper than that, so I am going to use that price for the cents per point calculation. So to calculate cents per point, you would take the cash price of the flight and then you subtract the cash price that you actually paid in taxes and fees, and then you would divide that by the points that you paid for the flight. So $6,259.40, and then you subtract the taxes and fees of $128.56. That amount will be in dollars, but then I like to multiply that by 100 to get the amount in cents, and then I divide that by the amount of points, so 150,000 Air Canada miles, and then we get a cents per point calculation of just over 4 cents per point. That is pretty good, but that is without factoring in the transfer boost, the 20% that we get for transferring Chase points to Air Canada. So let's do that calculation. Up top, it will be the same calculation, the cash price minus the taxes and fees, multiply that by 100, and then you divide it by the 125,000 Chase points that it costs for this flight, and it is going to be just under 5 cents per point. That is pretty good in my opinion. Of course, it's not the best of the best, but I will still take it because I really wanted to get to Hong Kong on this flight, and I was able to go all the way from Seattle. So that is really, really good in my opinion, and just $64 per ticket coming out of my pocket. So I'll take it. If you want to see the video where I actually took this flight, it'll be right there. I just posted it to my channel. And if you want to sign up for any credit cards mentioned in this video or not mentioned in this video, you can click on the links in my description. That'll help out the channel in a big way. So thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.